So, this episode was filmed just after the debate, Trump and Harris. Let me know if you agree with us or disagree with us, or just your general opinion on who you thought won that debate. Watch and or listen while we tackle tough and sometimes taboo topics filmed live over drinks. This platform allows us to articulate our thoughts and challenge our beliefs. This is SipTalk. Grab a drink and enjoy. All right, we are live. Welcome to SipTalk, episode 257. My name is Justin DiGiulio, joined by James, the Boswell, philosopher, philanthropist, philatelist. I'm out of PH words. We added a new one last episode, so you'll have to check that one out because I have lost it now. James, how's it hanging in sunny South Carolina?
Not so sunny out, and dude,
like it's nighttime.
You know what's actually really nice is like it's finally gotten to be like not balls hot every day here.
Oh, dude, it's this September, literally since the beginning of September, has been like perfect weather. It's like cool enough you can go out with the morning with a jacket on, nice light jacket. I'm enjoying this.
Usually in South Carolina, it doesn't like cool off until late September or early October. So like I'm enjoying the fact that it's not 90 something degrees every day anymore.
It's kind of nice to just be able to like be a human without climate control on the earth. So I've had some windows open lately. It's nice. It's been like years since I've kind of been able to open windows and just kind of exist.
Dude, you should move to San Diego. It's like that every day.
Well, Manhattan, if you open a window, it's just way too fucking loud in your apartment. So, but here we are, New Jersey, South Carolina.
All right, I'm going to flip the script a little bit on you. What are you drinking?
Okay, well, let me introduce the topic.
Oh,
and I will get into my drink. I'm very excited for my drink. Topic, we were talking about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And this is post their first debate together. However, we will get to my drink. I try to bring a serving board in here and a cutting board. I got quite the drink here today because I'm not drinking this month. Giving my liver, because, obviously we have a podcast about drinking, and I probably drink more than most people. I don't really believe I'm a true alcoholic in the sense I never like needing a drink, but I do like to have a drink. So in the spirit of time off the drink, I'm going to make myself a drink alcohol-free, minus about 1/100% in the bitters. So one of my favorite drinks to have when you're not drinking alcohol is Diet Coke. All right, I got a little Coke Zero here. Pour that in. It's a dirty glass. I prefer dirty glass when there's no alcohol in there. It just gives me a little air on my chest. I don't know how dirty that is. What I like to do is a couple of dashes of bitters. Now, these bitters, you can use your regular grocery store bitters, but these are ginger bitters. I'm going to put a couple of dashes of bitters in here, and the icing on the cake, a little lime. And the funny thing is about this drink is I made one the other day, and anybody who tasted it would have sworn it was a cocktail. Here's my lime juice. Oh, you know what? I actually brought a lime squeezer.
It's too late for that.
No, I will get a hell of a lot more lime juice out of this lime squeezer. Anybody who likes cocktails or likes lemon lime juice needs one of these devices. These things, I literally just squeeze the hell out of it with my forearm strength, and I just got like another 3 teaspoons of.
I still prefer my countertop juice press because I feel like I get more juice out of that, and then I just bottle it, and it's good for a week or two.
All right, so now we've got a drink that has no name, and got a fancy glass. I don't know how my audio is away from the microphone here. I got a fancy glass. I got no ice, dirty glass because it's an alcohol-free drink here, and I don't know if you can see it on camera.
Just looks like Diet Coke.
Tastes like a mixed drink. Tastes like a cocktail. Now, if I really wanted to, if I wasn't sitting in front of the camera live here, I'd have a nice big ice cube, maybe a smaller rocks glass, and like a little lime wheel on the top. It would really look like quite the cocktail. But I will tell you, that is satisfying almost as much as a regular cocktail is. Plus, by the way, cocktails, generally speaking, are just really sweet drinks. Right?
They don't have to be.
Well, generally speaking, cocktails, like you're covering up the taste and the flavor of the alcohol. So you're mixing other flavors. So as far as I'm concerned, this does the trick as an alcohol. Not going to get you fucked up. I had dinner last night. Ended up having like 5 or 6 Diet Cokes. That was terrible. But I just drank Diet Coke like I was drinking beer.
Well, speaking of beer, I am drinking Natural Light to match my affect and demeanor, which is always naturally light.
Naturally light. So we get a tall order here on the podcast. I assume that you watched the debate.
I watched it from start to finish. Did you?
I also watched it start to finish. I watched a little pre-debate coverage, a little post-debate coverage, and I wanted to watch the first debate with Biden and Trump, but I was doing the blocks that week, and I didn't really have access to TV during the hours of the debate.
So I watched some of the first debate between Biden and Trump, maybe like the last 15 or 20 minutes. And yeah, I was pretty crestfallen at what I was watching.
So listen, me going into this debate, the way that I've looked at this election so far is my thinking is 50% of the country is roughly 50% of the country is Democrat, the other 50% Republican. 50% Republican definitely voting for Trump. 50% of the Democrats maybe voting for Biden.
It's more like 45-45, and then probably about 10% will vote one way or another depending on the election.
But see, I was counting that 5% that were leaning Republican to definitely vote Trump. And then that kind of 5 or 10% on the Democrat side, maybe not voting for Biden. And then now you have Harris
yeah,
in his
but
place.
Like it's better to establish a floor and say there's 45 and 45, and then where elections are won and lost is your ability to sway that remaining 10%.
So Rosh asks, what percentage are non-voters?
Well, let me get the research department up on that one because I can pull
the
out
numbers,
Turnout.
the percentages we're talking about are percentages of people who are actually partaking and voting. And Sassy Classy Cassie says early for sober October. Well, my birthday's in October, and there's no way in hell I'm not having a drink in October.
All right. So to answer Rosh's question, in 2020, voter turnout was about 66% of the voting eligible population.
What's the number of voters? Does it give you a number?
No.
Was it less than 100 million? I would assume something like 60.
It's like 100. It was like 156 or 157 million because Trump got 76 million and Harris got not Harris, Biden got 81 million. So you're already at 157 million. Throw in another little bit for people voting third parties and stuff. You're probably around 160 million.
So I went in saying here's Kamala's opportunity to really gain some traction and ground and make Donald Trump look bad, make herself look more presidential. Now,
how do you think she did?
Now, if you like Kamala already, in my experience and having spoken with people post-debate, if they liked Kamala already, they think that she did that. They're like, oh, yeah, she won that. She decimated him. She was so presidential. She was regal. And I'm like, all right, calm down, pal. And then the people that aren't sold on her were like, yeah, so basically Trump did what we expected Trump to do. Our opinion on Trump has not changed. However, she didn't change our opinion on her either. I think she did a better job. I actually think if it was like an Olympic competition, or an actual debate, she would have gotten more points. She would have won. But I don't think that she changed the minds of the people that weren't sure on her.
So, I had a couple takeaways from the debate. The first was that I felt like, especially early on, and less so as the debate continued, that her responses felt somewhat canned and kind of just taken from like a stump speech.
I could agree with that. I heard that.
My second takeaway was that it was very clear that her strategy was to bait Trump into saying crazy and outlandish shit.
So we're gonna bring in some other opinions roughly halfway through the episode. I was speaking with the person who's going to join us, and he actually thought, I think they were both baiting each other, but we were talking about how he was baiting her.
Okay, well, we can get to that, but let me finish.
I think the point is, I think it went both ways, but go ahead.
I think that her strategy was to try and highlight as as starkly as possible differences in demeanor.
Mhm.
And I think that the moderators could have done a better job in one key area, which is Trump got the last word on every
Almost
single
every single
issue.
time.
They
Yeah.
they never gave her the last word on things, and there were times where Trump interrupted the moderators and forced his way into getting the last word. And when she tried to do the same, they said, "And now on to the next topic." So I felt that they were
But
unfair to
she
Harris in
so
that
but
regard.
here's I noticed that as well. And what I really noticed was he got the last word handed to him at the very end of the debate.
Well,
It was like
so the last word handed to him at the end of the debate would have been something that was
that was
decided before the debate began. That would have been a coin flip or something. So the
well, yeah,
only
she
time that I
started.
have no
The
issue
first
with him getting the
question
last word.
the first question was for her, and the last question he got to end on. I got that, but it sorry, I'll let you go ahead. But I do feel like she didn't push as hard, and maybe that's the difference between a man and a woman, which I suppose might be a conversation that might actually be relevant as well in terms of being a world leader.
I care less about that, and could be because like I think part of it was Harris wanted to make a point of her following the rules and keeping her composure, which is why she didn't insist on getting the last word at any point. And I think that the moderators did a really poor job. Like their job is to moderate, and when one person gets every single last word, I looked this up. I actually did the research on this today to say, like, did she get the last word on any? And no, she never got the last word on any topic. And so the moderators needed to give her at least a few, and that's a failure on their part. Now, I will also commend them in a different aspect, which is that they did step in and provide some fact checking when Trump said some of the more ridiculous lies, the
And
easily
yeah,
disprovable and completely ridiculous lies. And
they did
I
fact check
feel like
him
they could have
real
fact
time.
checked
Yeah.
him more, but but considering how little fact checking CNN did 3 months ago, I will take the fact checking that they did do as a small victory for the moderators.
So I didn't see the last debate. I know I literally and I was just I was too far behind. I didn't even watch any recaps. And then by the time I had the free time to do it, Harris was now running. Um, but there was no audience. Was
There's no
there?
audience for either of them.
Okay, that was my question. The thing is, I think Trump really kind of feeds off of the audience. Uh, so I felt like that was a slight detriment to him. But that's probably a good thing in terms of leveling the playing field because it allows us to just hear each of them speak.
I
Uh,
think having debates with no audience is the right way to go.
I also like the muting of the mics.
I
Uh,
don't.
you, but well, I mean, they didn't stick to it entirely. They would kind of give people the chance. But the issue that I find when you don't mute the mics is oftentimes when one person is trying to make their point, they can't even do it because they're being spoken over.
I mean, yeah, it's I agree with you on that in terms of like the muting the mics certainly serves a purpose. However, I still will say keeping the participants of a debate under control is the role of the moderators. And I think that instead of having the mics automatically muted, I think that that's something that you should give the power to the moderators to do.
Well, then they're almost refereeing, and
But that's what you
yeah,
are. That
yeah, I
moderator
know.
is a referee. Don't like
I get it, but it can become a little more biased in that respect.
I don't
Where
care. Like, if you're a moderator, your job is to moderate and do it as impartially as possible. And there's always going to be times where someone's going to feel like a referee's call is unfair. I know that as well as anybody,
well,
having
that's
been a
yeah, that's
referee for
I would hate for the
25 years.
debate. I would hate for at the end of the debate them to say, "Oh, this was really skewed by the referees, by
They
the
already did that.
moderators." Well, they're going to do it anyways, but
Right.
the
So if they're
more
already going to do it
control,
anyways,
the more
then
play that
empower
they
the
have,
moderators to do their job properly.
the more power the moderators have, the more likely the winner or loser of the debate's going to be blamed on them. But I don't. I mean, whatever. They muted the mics. I don't. Maybe
All
they
right.
could have done it differently. Any other observations on the debate before we kind of get into specific topics?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
Trump, for almost the entire debate, just was angry. He was angry in all of his in every aspect of his demeanor was just some version of angry. And I also felt like he didn't answer many of the questions directly or at all. Now, Harris was guilty of that, but I would argue to a far lesser degree.
Yeah, was watching them and watching them react. I didn't really see anything that really stood out. Like she kind of laughed a little bit to herself, or shook her head a little bit. He nodded. He looked like Trump. That is just kind of his resting bitch face. At the end, though, when they flipped to J.D. Vance, the expression on his face actually looked sinister, and I was like, dude, that's a creepy look on this.
Okay,
guy.
here I'm going to give you, and this is from the transcript. This is word for word what happened in the debate. David Muir, one of the moderators, said to Trump, "Let me just ask though, why did you try and kill that bill successfully?" Referring to the immigration bill from about 6 months ago. That bill would have put thousands of agents and officers on the border. Trump: "First, let me respond to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to the rallies. There's no reason to go." He continues on for a little bit.
He made a good point actually in that statement. He said that she buses people in that don't even know what they're doing there.
Oh yeah, and the people that do go, she's busing them in, paying there to be there. So first of all, I don't know if there's any proof of that, but
I see it happen in New York City and in Albany, that they bus people in, and these guys literally are just giving signs and have no fucking idea what they're doing there.
All right, so I don't want to get into that because I think that that's a very minor point. He's responding to why did you kill the immigration bill, and he's talking about his rallies, and then he continues, and I'm skipping a little bit, but then he says,
not relevant.
What?
Because it's also not relevant to the question. Yeah,
right. Like he continues talking about his rallies, and he just says our country's being lost, we're a failing nation. Continuing down, he says, a lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the people of the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. And as far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase. And he continues on for a little bit, but at no point does he explain why he killed the bill. And I think, to me, one of the, this was early on in the debate, but David Muir says, we talked to the city manager of that town, and they say that they have no reports of this happening. And Trump says, but the people on the television say their dog was eaten by the people that went there. Muir: again, the Springfield city manager says no evidence of that. And it's like, think about this. Think about the crazy person that you've talked to that makes that I'm sure you've ran into in New York City, and they say something
on the street saying, they're out to get me.
But the people on the television said that. You're like, that's crazy person talk. So there's no other way to describe it than
listen. I thought it was very funny that because I had already heard about J.D. Vance talking about Haitian immigrants eating dogs. I looked it up. It seemed to be baseless.
It's absolutely baseless.
And then it may be baseless, but I feel like there must have been some phony news story or something that would have come across his radar that was then proved incorrect. So nothing. I thought it was very funny that he would double down and repeat it in there. And then actually, since then, I've seen a video of kind of a crazy woman who was high on something, supposedly killed, and was eating a cat in somebody's front lawn. And maybe she was eating it, who knows? But also, she happened to be Haitian, but she was from the area. She wasn't an immigrant.
Right. And also, and I can't believe I have to say this, but it isn't even in Haitian culture to eat cats or dogs.
Yeah, exactly. There are other cultures that do those things, but
not Haitians.
Not the Haitians, yeah.
And so it's just a clear racist dog whistle. And this,
he should have learned his lesson when he was talking all this shit about Asian people and Chinese people, and then they were having kind of hate.
During COVID.
Yeah, that people were attacking them.
Right, so by him saying that kind of stuff, he's putting these people who have done nothing wrong in real danger of being victims of hate crimes.
Yeah,
because people are going to hear what to say and believe it.
He also,
even though It's not true. Everyone says it's not true. But because he keeps on repeating it, there are going to be people that believe him.
But yeah, also the same thing about the January 6th rally. Who somebody at some point called, I think it was Trump, called it J6. I was like, damn, you got a fucking nickname for it?
Real quick, so Kevin says there was a video of someone in Ohio, but not Springfield, carrying a bird walking down the street, and Kevin says, I believe it was like city animal control or like a roadkill cleanup crew. And so this is how easy it is to take something, alter it slightly, put it out of context, and then tell a completely different story about it.
Well, that's what happened with a lot of voter fraud. They're like, oh, we got this picture, this video of this guy carrying boxes out of the polling area, and it's just like, yeah, it's garbage or it's whatever. We interviewed,
or it's we've already counted these votes, so we're putting them into storage. Exactly. Or we just got a new delivery of votes that we need to count, so they're bringing them to the floor. And so you take one picture of somebody with
boxes. Yeah, it doesn't. Just the context is so. But I guess we're kind of getting into some specifics.
Well, I want to get into some more.
Okay. Well, the one that I was going to mention. I totally lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
For me, actually, one of the more troubling areas of the debate was when they were talking about Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah.
And
I think I didn't find this troubling, so I'm curious what it is.
So David Muir says, now I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into the conflict. And he continues for a little bit. And the question he asked Trump is, do you want Ukraine to win this war? That's the question that Trump has to respond to. And Trump says, I want the war to stop.
Yeah.
He purposely said he purposely does not say that he wants Ukraine to win.
Because he has ties and he's aligned with Russia and Putin.
And he goes on for a little bit, a lot of bit, but we go back around and David Muir says, your time is up. Just to clarify the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win the war? Yes or no?
And
so he redirects him to the original question.
Double down on the same statement.
And Trump says,
be over.
I think it's in the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and done. All right? Negotiate a deal because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
And so, yeah.
He
could have handled that more diplomatically. He could have given the same answer more diplomatically, saying, listen, in war, there's no winners and no losers. The war needs to end. I want to negotiate something that both parties are content with. He could have said something slightly more diplomatic. Not that a lot of America would have been happy with that answer.
That's still the wrong answer, though.
Bad answer. Well, it's
no, but even your answer is still the wrong answer.
What would you say is the right answer?
The answer is Russia needs to pull out of Ukraine. Ukraine's borders need to be restored, and it is in the United States and the world's best interest for Ukraine to win this war and for the war to end.
That might be the best answer in that specific context, but it also may pin us at war against Russia.
No, we don't have to get involved in any war with Russia to say that Ukraine should win this war. They were the ones that were invaded.
No, I have a little mixed feelings about that because
how could you have mixed feelings about that?
Because I think if we right now we're not fully sided with Ukraine in the sense we're not doing everything we could to get the war over with.
Well, everything we could involves us sending our troops over there to fight with them.
Exactly, and that would be us supporting Ukraine winning. So we're
giving them billions of dollars of weapons and stuff. So it's clear which side we are on. So we don't need to pretend like we're not.
Well, but we are, and
right. And so that's why I'm saying your answer was a bad answer.
Trump gave a bad version of the answer that we're currently.
He gave a worse version of your bad answer.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think my answer was that bad.
And I'm trying to tell you why it is.
I think the other answer saying we want Ukraine to win is going to put us in bad standing with Russia.
But we do. If we did, we wouldn't be giving them weapons.
Yeah, but we don't want it that bad because we're not just winning the war for them. We're not sending our troops over there. So
the reason why we're not sending our troops over there is because if we get involved and then it could truly turn into a global conflict.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if we didn't want Ukraine to win the war, we wouldn't be sending them weapons. So we can't deny the purpose of our actions, we can also simultaneously acknowledge that there are geopolitics, nuclear geopolitics at play that tie our hands from being able to do more.
Wasn't there a mention of nukes at some point in the debate, or am I mixing that up with something else?
Let me find out.
I think that, yeah. Can you do like a Command F or Control F?
Yeah,
So you have the whole transcript. Nukes or nuclear, something like that. While you're searching that, question for you and anybody else who's watching and listening: did you notice the pin, the lapel pin? I gotta bring up the bar trivia question after this. But did you notice? And then we can get to the nuclear thing. Did you notice the flag lapel pins they were wearing?
No.
So Trump had I mean, it's very funny because I have, during Trump's presidency, kind of assumed that most people with big American flags on their front lawns were Trump supporters. It was funny how the American flag almost seemed to scream, "I'm a Trump supporter." Very strange. But he had a very very clear flag pin on his lapel. You could see the blue, the white stars. You could see the red and the white stripes. Her flag pin, you could not see any red, white, or blue. It just looked like a limp flag on a kind of golden or brass pin. It's very, very strange.
Doesn't matter to me at all.
At some level, somebody's thinking about it, choosing the pin.
Okay.
And
here's so Trump says, in reference to Putin, he says, but eventually, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them. Maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should never have started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did, and the war started 3 days later. Now, first of all, I want to point out that Trump thinks that he's saying something profound here by saying, he's got nuclear weapons and they don't ever talk about that. No, everybody talks about that. It's something that people think about all the time. Literally, that is probably the biggest motivation on our military's part for why they're not more involved.
Yeah, exactly.
So the fact that Trump is Trump's pointing out no, the sky is blue, and
nobody ever talks about that.
Yeah, why did we ever think about why the sky is blue? Dude, everybody knows this.
But the next statement that he made, I thought was a burn for her. She was there 3 days before Russian-Ukraine war started. She was there to negotiate, and 3 days later they went to war. So she didn't do her job.
I would say I don't know much about this,
and now it's cost us billions of dollars.
Whoa! I will say first of all that I don't know much about this, but even if we assume that everything he is saying is true, that she was there 3 days before Russia invaded Ukraine,
she didn't deny it.
Well, okay, but I'm going to say, for the sake of this argument, let's assume that's true. That does not mean that she failed in negotiation, and here's why. In order to have a productive negotiation, you need to have both parties that are willing to negotiate in good faith. If Putin had a set of demands such that Zelensky needs to resign and other things in Ukraine, that's not negotiating in good faith. So you can't go into a negotiation where one party is asking for unreasonable things. And so when that kind of a negotiation happens, you walk away from the negotiating table.
Yeah, but we don't know any details. She didn't fill us in any details. She didn't really answer that.
I just want to say that your conclusion that she's a weak negotiator cannot be made.
But she also didn't argue it. She didn't argue that. So I think it was not helpful for her campaign. She lost ground on that statement.
Let me see what her response is here.
All right.
So David Moyer's
the bar trivia question on deck here. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. She says, when I went to meet with President Zelensky, I met with him for over five times. The reality is, it's been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strong men instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring that we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
All right. Let me get to the bar trivia question. I still don't think she defended herself with that statement. I understand what she was saying, but I'm telling you, she didn't gain any ground with the rebuttal there. All right. Bar trivia question from episode 256. Ben and Carl were in a 100-meter race. When Ben crossed the finish line, Carl was only at the 90-minute mark. Ben suggested they run another race, but this time Ben would start 10 meters behind the starting line. All other things being equal, will Carl win, lose, or will they tie in the second race? James.
Ben was the one who won the first race, right?
Ben won by 10 meters in the first race, so he started 10 meters behind in the second race.
He will still win the second race.
Okay, and at what point will he pass Carl?
1 meter to the finish line.
So here's your official answer. Carl will lose again. The second race, Ben started 10 meters back. By the time Carl reaches the 90-meter mark, Ben will have caught up to him. Therefore, the final 10 meters will belong to the faster of the two. Since Ben is faster than Carl, he will win in the final 10 meters on the race. All right, stay tuned for the end of the episode. We will hit you with another bar trivia question. This one is about dating two girls at the same time. So if you're into that thing, you might want to stick around to the end of this episode. We got 20 minutes or so before we give that one to you. So let's see. So speaking of someone who wants to jump into this conversation, we have somebody that if they wanted to, they could probably last a month eating all their own pets. They have quite a, I can see them in the waiting room. Also, by the way, if you want to join this episode of SipTalk while we are live for the next 20 minutes or so, until about 9:30 Eastern time, check out the link in my Instagram profile, and you'll be able to jump into the waiting room. You send me a message and let me know what you want to talk about. We'll bring you in. Right now, we have Eric and Amanda Hastings in the waiting room. We're going to bring them on. They've been in the waiting room for a while.
Well, by the way, I also have I have a fact check pulled up for statements made by both candidates. That's like probably about 8,000 words. So,
all right. Well, listen, what I was saying is we got Eric and Amanda have been in the waiting room for a while. Very patient. Then, however, I have noticed they both had a drink in their hand. So we're gonna bring them in and see how much of that drink they've consumed. Welcome, Eric and Amanda.
Not enough. I'm the ghost man here.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm like half a bottle in.
All right.
I got another gin and tonic, little Tanqueray action, a little sweats.
Right. So they got some drinks in them. But I want to ask you guys outright, and thank you for joining us. Who do you think won the debate?
Harris.
Kamala.
Okay, so we're all in agreement there.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're all in agreement there. Any observations you'd like to share? General observations, not specific.
He came off pretty well. He came off as kind of a doddering old fool. He just did.
I noticed she tried to stare at Trump intently, and Trump would just ignore her. He didn't.
Do you think that was a good move by Trump?
He may have been told to do that.
Honestly, it would make her feel irrelevant or less than. So.
But do you think that was a good look for Trump to be ignoring his opponent?
No, not my opinion.
No, probably not.
Let me ask you about this. He also never referred to her by name. He just said she or her.
Yes.
Correct.
But also, in the beginning, he went straight to the podium. She went around to shake his hand. And I also believe that was the first time ever that they met in person.
Correct.
That's what I heard. So, James, I want to ask you first. What did you feel about the optics of him kind of ignoring her, going straight to the podium, and she went around her podium and then behind his podium and extended her hand?
I think it was a good move on her part to extend a handshake.
Yep.
It's a very simple gesture that is disarming. It's simple.
So I like the fact that she did go for the handshake. What I didn't like were the optics of her kind of having to go in and around and chase him. I thought that made her look a little bit weaker.
No, I think that I would take the exact opposite of he's trying to avoid her and she's not letting him.
Yes, that.
It was a lot of walking on her part. I don't know.
Right, but if someone's trying to avoid you, you have to walk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that she did a good job of forcing the issue, and the issue being basic decency of how you treat an opponent. Like it's just like when I play in Pool League. Before your match, you greet and shake your opponent's hand, and after the match, regardless of the result, you shake your opponent's hand.
Yeah.
No matter how mad you are that you lost, you go up to your opponent and you say, "Good match," you shake their hand, and you walk away.
Well, I think his behavior in the beginning, I think, was a negative for him. I think it was good that she was the one that led the handshake. What I'm saying, though, is the fact that she almost had to chase him down. Optically, I didn't think was a good look for her. So
I think you're drawing the wrong conclusion. Which
yeah.
I just need to get like a soundbite. I just need like a soundboard of me saying that.
Do you mind if I talk?
We do need a soundboard. That would be nice. Maybe that'll be a future
I do
edition.
have like a little bit of a thing I do want to say. Is that all right?
No. Yes.
Really?
Go ahead, but move closer to the camera because
All
you're,
right, so
you're fading,
basically-
you're fading into your
I'm
background.
going to be honest. Both these candidates suck. Okay?
I think most of America also agrees with that statement.
I think so too.
Yes. Unfortunately, I'm going to tell you this. Kamala
Move forward.
kept preaching she's middle class. She is so far removed from middle class. Her father was a professor. Her mother was a scientist. You think they didn't make six figures? Seriously, that's not middle class, especially back then.
I had questioned that. She said, she kept doubling down on how she grew up kind of middle class, leaning to being kind of lower middle class, and that her family didn't own a home.
The last time she ever had middle class? What do you think the last time that she went to a grocery store or cooked for herself? Or Trump either.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But the issue is like she's not able to do that, even if she wanted to. But I don't know necessarily that she was lower middle class growing up. She did mention that her parents didn't own a home until she was either 18 or in high school or something like that. But and then she mentioned how Trump got $400 million, which he denied. And then they mentioned that he bankrupted so many times. And then he mentioned that despite him bankrupting the company or different companies, he still grew it into a many, many billions of dollars.
And he did it multiple times.
All right, so real quick, research department on this.
Yeah, I'm very curious.
So her parents met in 1962 and married in 1963. By 1970, they divorced. So, like, and she lived with her mother since then. And so in 1970, hold on, Kamala Harris was born in, 1960. No, she was born in 1964. So her father divorced her mother in 1970. That means that she was 6 at the time. So I think her growing up with a single mother in 1970, even if her mother had a decent job as a scientist, growing up with a single mom in California, I think that you could make a pretty strong argument that that's solidly a middle class living.
Lost child support from the father. Got to remember that.
Well, maybe not. We don't know that.
We don't know. But
this is purely speculation, though.
Right, but what I'm saying is that for you to say that she lived a high class lifestyle in her childhood, I think is a hard argument.
My thing is, I just want to get this through real quick. Both candidates are so far removed from what real Americans have problems with. They don't know what it's like to have to struggle and go through, can I feed my children? Can I keep a roof over my head? Or do I have to pay the electric? You got to pick one out of the three.
So I don't
think you can make that argument. I think
that's real American problems.
Guys, hear me out. I think what the point that Eric is making is that Kamala's been in the White House or visits the White House often for the last 3.5 years.
Yes.
The middle class and the lower middle class are really struggling just getting by. The cost of housing, the cost to buy a house, the cost to rent, the cost of groceries. And what Eric's saying is that she's so far removed from that. And I think you could take away her childhood. I think now she's very far removed from that. But what I don't think that Trump did a very good job, and he did touch on it, and then she didn't do a very good job defending. So they both kind of dropped the ball on this about how bad the economy is for many people right now. I saw an example the other day. Somebody ordered groceries online 3 years ago or something. It cost him $84. He literally ordered the same thing again. It cost like $430.
Yes.
So hold on. That's a really weak comparison, and here's why.
Oh wow.
Oh, hold on.
You need to look at, like, 4 years ago, if you order groceries online, like, so a lot of these grocery delivery companies have operated under the same business structure as Uber and Lyft did, which is early on, they structure their business in such a way that they're making losses on every sale to gain customers. And then once they reach a critical market threshold, they start raising their prices. And so 4 years ago, they
I
wouldn't have
saw
been
the
marking up
example,
the
though. It was
groceries.
like Walmart.
But
No. I'm not talking about where you buy the groceries from. I'm talking about the service you buy the groceries through. And so you can, like, basically a DoorDash for groceries, right?
You're going to be freaking paying out the
No,
ass fees.
I'm not arguing that grocery prices aren't higher today than they were 4 years ago. What I'm saying is that if you have an $83 grocery bill 4 years ago, it is not $400 today, and that's a patent misrepresentation of inflation.
Agreed.
And so,
but I don't think the $340 difference is all in incentives.
no, but what I'm saying is like, you can look at inflation data and you will never get 400%. You will never get 500%. That is
Right,
so
I agree
far
with you.
out.
I
that,
agree with you.
Huh?
James.
What?
No.
Regular inflation or core inflation?
There's not a single good in the United States that is 400 or 500% more expensive now than it was 4 years ago.
Food.
I agree with you. I agree. This is an
400 or
extreme
500%? No.
This is an
All
extreme
right, here's the
example.
problem. We are getting higher wages in general, but it still hasn't caught up to the costs of living now. It's
Okay,
way out
but
of whack
again,
still.
stop using bad examples to justify your point.
Well, let me
Don't
also
you
put it this way.
like you lose intellectual credibility when you say that something is $400 that was only $80 4 years ago. That's just not true.
I'm using a hyperbolic example here, but I think
and I'm telling you not to do that.
But the reason why it is trending and why it's viral is because many people don't think it's 100% accurate, but they identify with it. And they're like, here's an example of what we're feeling, albeit hyperbolic. It's still where everybody's feeling that. And I don't think that either one of them she didn't defend it and he didn't exploit it. Not the 400% increase, but the state of the middle class economy. And her saying that she's from a middle class or lower middle class or she struggled growing up. I think what Eric is saying is that she's very far removed from that, and she's just using it to try to get to this base of voters.
All right, I've got the data on grocery prices.
25% up.
Eric, you said about 25% up?
About 21 to 25, yes. From what I remember.
You're actually very, very close. It's about 25.8.
I just searched. I got the same number.
So,
and your amount of money.
Don't give me the bullshit that things are 400 or 500% more expensive when in reality it's 26. And this gets to the first thing that
it's substantial. It pinches the pocket of what we have.
I'm not trying to say that prices are the same today as they were 4 years ago, and I'm not trying to say that 26% is an insignificant figure. But what I'm going to get to, and this is the first thing that I wrote down when I was preparing for this cast, which is that there are various flavors of lies. And and when you say something like, here's my grocery bill from 4 years ago and here it is today and it's 400% higher, that is a flagrant and dangerous lie. When you say here's, like, I feel like I'm paying twice as much in groceries as I did 4 years ago, that's less egregious of a lie. When you say grocery prices are the same today as they were 4 years ago, that's a less egregious lie. So the more you and when it comes to other types of lies, like Trump talking about them eating the dogs, that's flagrant and dangerous.
Okay.
And so when people talk about how Kamala Harris had some things that she said that were untrue, if you want to call them lies, so fine. Like, you can compare. You can't just compare the quantity of lies that someone tells. You need to compare the magnitude and the implication of those lies. And when you do that, when you do that,
depending
you
on the
will
value,
see.
it doesn't
Some
matter.
lies are bigger than others.
It doesn't matter.
So
Eric,
all I'm saying
you're
is they
ignoring
didn't.
the point that I just made. Is that the type of lie you tell matters, and you can't just say she told 5 lies and he told 10 lies, or he told 5 lies and she told 5 lies, and say they're the same when his lies were horrifically bad and hers were
Both
more
bad.
on the side of misstatements.
So all I'm saying is that talking point was not exploited nor defended the way that I thought it would have been. I would have thought that Trump would have come up with this 400 increase, and then she would have been able to defend it with some other metric about how wages are higher or something like that. It didn't.
They weren't allowed to bring any notes, and I think if you're going to go into specifics, you're going to want notes.
And a lot
So
of
I think that's a bad rule.
numbers off the
another thing, kind of specific point, was I thought burned him pretty good when she talked about him taking a full page newspaper ad out regarding the Central Park Five, saying that they should receive the death penalty.
Mhm.
I felt that his rebuttal on that wasn't as strong. Right, so I'm just going to mute you guys for a minute. His rebuttal on that wasn't that good, but he could have had a stronger talking point on that. Any thoughts on that, guys? James?
It was just passing in the debate. It wasn't something they really focused on. So I vaguely recall.
So here's my thought, and James, give me your opinion on this. Is that Kamala was also a criminal prosecutor?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And he, I guess maybe because they didn't have notes, or maybe he just has no idea because he's just completely unaware. But he could have kind of turned around and been like, "Well, I'm sure there's some cases that were wrongful that you participated in and doubled down on as well." I said these guys who all said that they were guilty, they all pled guilty, should receive the maximum sentence.
Yeah, I mean,
he did say that Bloomberg agreed with him at the time, which but
well, I'm going to read you a different quote, and this is on the topic of racism, because I think that you can make the argument that his advocacy for the execution of 5 innocent people of the Central Park 5 plays into a greater racism that Trump exhibits, and I'm going to give you a quote from the 1991 book Trumped by John O'Dowell. Here's the quote from Trump. "I've got black accountants at Trump Castle and Trump Plaza. Black guys counting my money. I hate it. The only kinds of people that I want counting my money are short guys wearing yarmulkes. Those are the only kind of people I want counting my money. Nobody else. Besides that, I've got to tell you something else. I think that the guy's lazy, and it's probably not his fault because laziness is a trait in blacks." End quote.
He's colorful. Nothing else.
So, but what did I say at the beginning of this conversation? We all know who Trump is. The people who like Trump also know who he is. There's no surprises. He's not moving the needle on his side. The needle needed to be moved on her side. And I don't think she did a great job doing that. For the people that support her, they're like, yeah, she did a great job. For the people that want to support her, which I know a lot of because I'm in New York City, and I'm seeing a lot of people being like, yeah, fucking Biden, like, I may just vote Trump. And
you know what? Let me give you another quote here. Let me give you another quote, and this has nothing to do with racism. This is a direct quote from the end of one of Trump's portions of the debate. Okay. He says, "If she won the election the day after the election, they'll go back to destroying our economy, our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant, by the way? I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400 or 500 acres of desert soil." So
they are inefficient.
He was trying to play both sides. I remember that quote.
Right. It's like solar is terrible and she's going to destroy the country. Also, I like solar, and then also I hate solar. It's like
It's a little contradicting. I understand.
I think maybe he likes the concept of solar, but he doesn't like the execution.
He's old world. He believes that the money is in the oil.
no.
Well,
I think this speaks to a greater aspect of Trump, which is that he has no idea what he is talking about.
That's probably true.
Sometimes
Which
yes,
is he
sometimes
just
not.
rambles whatever comes into his head. There's not a bouncer at the door
There's
between
no filter.
his head and his mouth. It's just everyone's in. Go.
Well,
And-
some people would say that makes him a little more genuine.
I think that you like.
I don't think that's a good.
Actually, you know what?
Especially not for a president.
Hold on, wait. I will agree with you. I will say the fact that he just says whatever he is thinking does make him more genuine, and we can genuinely see that he's a classifiable moron.
So you prefer somebody who's better at lying to you?
Huh?
So you would prefer somebody who's better at lying to you?
All politicians lie.
I think for somebody who's better at speaking
I think
and just more articulated and better thought out.
I think that what Harris says in general is more believable, and she also doesn't say ridiculous shit.
Well, so on that note, what she says is more believable, and I'm missing one of the metrics here. But she mentioned a $50,000 small business tax credit. She mentioned $25,000 towards a first-time home buyer's down payment, and she mentioned one other thing.
What was the other thing?
Child tax credit, home down payment assistance for homes.
I want to
child tax credit. What was it, $6,000 child tax credit?
Let's ask the easiest question out of this. Where's she gonna get the money? She's gonna cut 5% off of everything. Where's she gonna get the money for all?
You're not getting the money. You're getting tax.
But wait, answer Eric. I can answer that.
You're not giving grants. You're
more
giving
taxes.
Whoa! Hold on. There are two specific policy proposals she has to make up for some of that revenue. The first is raise
taxable gain.
Eric, you have to let him respond.
Sorry.
The first is raising the corporate income tax from 21% to 28%, which is still lower than it was before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, when it was at 37%. So she's going to raise the corporate income tax from 21 to 28. And the second is that she will be taxing capital gains on individuals who have a net worth of $100 million or more. So the number of people that it will affect is very, very small. And I would argue that we should be shedding no tears for anybody who has net worth of 100 million or more.
Well, how do you feel about the jobs that will be lost from these people that are leaving? You need to incentivize to get American jobs for these people not to outsource.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about.
I think what Eric is saying, if that corporate tax rate goes up, we will lose more corporations, thus lose more jobs. I think that's what Eric is saying.
Yeah, I think that's what
it won't end up more in benefits than we would having them.
I think that is a major issue on the Democratic side, is that they are such little person that they really use, and I see this in New York City, where they have all these plans and programs that just use landlords and property owners as their savings account or kind of back pocket for change. So, I think at the federal level, on the Democratic side, they're using corporations to, not that I think that a 7 or 6 or whatever % tax increase is that bad, but some businesses are going to say, you know what, fuck this.
Well, it depends on how they choose to deal with that tax. Like, are they going to pass that on to their consumers?
Yes.
Are they going to take that away from their profit shareholders?
Well,
where is that money coming from?
So first of all,
business owner.
Any increase in the corporate income tax is a tax on profits only. So
but how they choose to realize that cost to their business.
Yeah,
well,
if the
first
shareholders
of all,
are making less money,
there's no passing it on to consumers because
horseshit.
No,
necessarily.
It's because the only thing that will change is their after-tax profit. Their pre-tax profit will remain the same no matter what.
Okay.
It's just their after-tax profit. So
but if
to your
they
second point
reduce
of
their dividends to their shareholders
that's a possibility.
And the stock like it's hot. and then
Right.
you could have a crazy,
No.
that.
You just-
Amanda's right. There are implications. If people are making less money, they're
Okay.
making less money.
So hold on, wait. I'll engage with this, which is if companies reduce their dividends or reduce things like stock buyback programs because their corporate tax rate is slightly higher,
Yeah.
I don't see that as a bad enough thing to outweigh the benefits of the increased governmental revenue going towards programs that will help people, such as increasing the child tax credit, increasing down payment assistance. Like everything's a cost benefit here.
Shareholders aren't getting into it for the benefits to society. They're getting
No.
the money.
But what I'm saying is that we can have a large benefit to society
Okay.
at the cost of a small detriment to shareholders that are a small portion of society.
But the shareholders in question control a lot of other things, right?
So we're gonna move on just because we are almost out of time. I'm going to get to the bar trivia question. Sorry, felt like that wasn't going anywhere, guys.
Okay.
So bar trivia question. Don Wand has two girlfriends. They live on opposite sides of town. To visit Mary, Don takes the eastbound train.
Okay.
To visit Jane, Don takes the westbound train. Now, Don likes each girl equally, but instead of deciding who to visit, he allows fate to decide by boarding the first train that comes along. Each day, Don reaches his train at a random time. Now, guys, bear in mind, I'm asking the question. You are not to answer it if you know the answer. Our answer will come next episode. It'll save me a little cropping on the editing of this episode here. But if you know it, you can tell me afterwards. Each day, Don reaches a train station at a random time. The two trains arrive every 20 minutes, but for some reason, Don almost always ends up at Mary's. Why would Don usually end up at Mary's if each train comes along 3 times every hour, and Don always arrives at different times? I'll read it to you one more time for those of you trying to pay attention. Don Wand has two girlfriends that live on opposite sides of town. To visit Mary, Don takes the eastbound train. To visit Jane, Don takes the westbound train. Don likes each of them equally, so instead of deciding who he's going to visit, he lets fate decide by boarding the first train that comes along. Each day, he arrives at a random time. The two trains arrive every 20 minutes, but for some reason, Don almost always ends up at Mary's. Why would Don usually end up at Mary's if each train comes along 3 times every hour, and Don always arrives at different times?
I know it.
All right. I mean, it's a relatively simple answer, but there's a lot to the question to throw you off. I think that will mostly conclude this episode. Anything else that you guys want to add real quickly about the first, maybe last presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris? I don't think they're going to do another debate.
It looks like they're not going to do another one. I was seeing some breaking news that indicated that he said he wouldn't debate her again. I don't know. I don't think he would win anything from debating her again. I don't think he's going to change his strategy for campaigning. I don't think he has anything to win.
If there was a crowd,
James.
No, she's correct. That like the reporting coming out today is that Trump has declined a second debate, and all I can hope, from my biased perspective, is that she spends the next month and a half calling him a chicken.
It's entirely possible.
Eric, what were you saying? You think he doesn't gain any ground? Oh, you said unless there's an audience. Is that what I heard you saying in the background?
He feeds off that audience, just like you said earlier.
Yeah.
You have an audience, he'll be able to drown her out and win.
Yeah. Did you guys see the potential vice presidents at the end of the debate in the post-debate coverage?
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't see that.
So J.D. Vance, I mentioned this earlier. He looked very sinister to me. He had kind of this furrowed brow, very dark eyes. He actually he looked like evil. It actually like struck me.
Evil.
And then Waltz looked like the Macy's Thanksgiving Santa Claus who had just had his beard shaved off.
He looked very happy.
He looked very happy. He looked like a Santa Claus that just had his.
Pretty
kind
much
of like
Wasn't sad about the beard. It must have probably felt very nice.
Very
affable. Still,
Say that again, James.
affable.
Yeah, he definitely is more so than JD Vance. I would definitely say that. But he looked happy, and I looked at some of the political futures market, which I never do, and they are seeing gains for Harris. So maybe some of the country is seeing something that I'm not in New York City, but we're out of time. So don't forget to visit SipTalkPodcast.com. Pick up some SipTalk merch. Some pint glasses, things like that. I want to thank Rosh Galeb for hanging out in the flanks, feeding us your comments real time. See you guys next time. Adios.
All right, you made it to the end of our grand argument. Let me know who you agree with, or if you have your own opinion, share it in the comments. Looking forward to hearing from you. See you next time. Adios.